No one truly knows what Shohei Ohtani is looking for in free agency, but what has become abundantly clear over the last few days is the Giants are pushing in their chips, they're going all in, and they are intent on making a very serious run at the best player in Major League Baseball. Welcome into another edition of the Kerry Crowley Show. Third episode of the week. This one will be brief, but we have to touch on the increasing noise surrounding Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the San Francisco Giants, and a big splash. And I know we do the same song and dance every offseason. You can go back to when John Lester was a free agent. I think it was the 2015 class. You go back to Bryce Harper being a free agent, Giancarlo Stanton on the trade market, Ohtani first coming to the United States from Japan. The Giants are always in on the big free agents. Have they landed one? The answer, we all know, is no. They came awful close with Carlos Correa last year, but they did not get that deal to the finish line. Of course, the medicals falling through on the Giants' end. And so what has transpired this offseason is, to date, rumors surrounding Ohtani, rumors surrounding Yamamoto, rumors surrounding the Giants, and the biggest names on the free agent market. No, this is not the most robust class of free agents of all time, but in my opinion, it considers one of the great players of all time in Shohei Ohtani and several other difference makers. You're looking at Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who's got a track record of success as an ace in Japan. You've got a pitcher like Blake Snell, 2 Cy Young Awards, including the 2023 award in his back pocket. You've got Matt Chapman, you've got Cody Bellinger, and you have a Giants team that is hungry for star power. I think that it has been increasingly clear over the last few weeks, especially since the hiring of Bob Melvin, the Giants understand that they absolutely must make a push for all these big stars. And that's not to say that they haven't understood that in the past. That's not to say that they don't get the value of star power in San Francisco. Heck, I've done entire episodes on what stars such as Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, Buster Posey, Tim Lincecum have meant to this Giants franchise. But right now, it's a franchise in search of an identity. It's a franchise in search of someone who can be the leader moving forward and compare with Logan Webb, because you're not just going to move forward with one person being the face of the organization. You're going to need multiple all-star championship caliber players to get you there. And I am of the utmost belief that Logan Webb falls into that category. I think that finishing second in the Cy Young voting this year, he proved once and for all that he is a star at the major league level. And now it's up to Giants ownership, the Giants front office led by Farhan Zaidi, to go get someone who can either A, pair with Logan Webb at the top of the Giants rotation and make pitching the identity of this team, or go get the middle of the order bat that the Giants have so desperately craved for so long. And let's be honest, they could use both. And the Giants probably have the money to go out and get both, which is why some comments made by people who are inside the organization and or close to the organization, talking to people inside the Giants front office, have really raised some eyebrows this week. Let's start with John Morosi of MLB, who was on TV earlier this week talking about how the Giants were making Shohei Ohtani or Yoshinobu Yamamoto their top priorities this offseason. They're in on both players, and they are intent on landing at least one of those players. To me, it's a declaration of intent from inside the Giants organization. They're extremely serious. And as someone in the front office leaking to Morosi, hey, we are going to land one of these players? Absolutely not. Nor should anyone be saying that, because the Giants don't have the track record of landing players. All they've done in recent free agencies is disappointed their fans. But what it tells me is that what Morosi is hearing, either A, from the Giants, or B, from the agent side of affairs, is that this is a team that is intent on spending money this offseason. This is a team that has accepted the fact that the last 2 seasons have been a tremendous disappointment in San Francisco, and this is a team that should stop at nothing from a spending standpoint to get the players they need. That's not to say that they're going to make the best offers to 6 players at the top of the free agent market, but it is to say that if they leave free agency without landing an Ohtani, without landing a Yamamoto or a Snell or a Bellinger, that it will disappoint people inside the walls of Willie Mays Plaza. Let's get to the next comment made this week that I thought was particularly interesting, and that was Dave Fleming on the Tim Kawakami Show saying that the Giants are very active right now, and he anticipates movement, big movement potentially, within the next 10 days. There's a few things the Giants are working on right now that could come to fruition, and for Giants fans, that is music to their ears. Fleming is someone obviously employed by the team, but does an incredible job really breaking down the team in an honest fashion. I think that of all the broadcasters out there in Major League Baseball, one thing that Dave Fleming does that's really commendable is he gives it to you straight. He understands the views of people inside the organization. He's a great liaison from the organization to the fan base whenever he makes media appearances, and he's someone who's not afraid to call out poor play when it happens in front of him when he's broadcasting a game. He's not afraid to say that, hey, look, he was sad that Gabe Kapler and his staff, it ended the way it did for them. And I think a lot of people inside the organization felt that way because of how Kapler and his staff poured their hearts out to try to make things work in San Francisco. Ultimately, that didn't happen, though. And then there's the comments that Mike Krukow made on KNBR saying that the Giants are deep into their pitch to Shohei Ohtani. They're presenting him with the pitch on coming to San Francisco, being the face of the franchise, and ushering in the next era of Giants baseball, which has got to be more exciting, more thrilling, and more victorious than the previous era of Giants baseball, which has been an era where since 2014 does not include any playoff series victories. And so I've talked about this before on the Kerry Crowley Show. I'll talk about it one more time here today, and that is, what will it take to get a contract done with Shohei Ohtani? In my opinion, you're looking at a minimum of 12 years, probably something in the Giants range, like 13 or 14 if MLB allows them to extend that type of a contract. And why would you want a 14-year deal for someone who's already, 30 years old, close to it or around that age, and probably not going to play until his mid-40s? Well, you do it because it spreads out the average annual value of the money that you owe Ohtani. And so say you do 10 years at $500 million, that's $50 million on your books, on your payroll every single season. Say you do 12 years, 14 years, you're lowering that total, which gives you flexibility under the luxury tax threshold, which is oh so important for the San Francisco Giants moving forward. And so I think that the idea of an Ohtani contract is to get him a long-term deal, have him set a record, upward of the $426.5 million contract that Mike Trout signed with the Los Angeles Angels, an extension, have him surpass potentially the average annual value record held by Max Scherzer on that deal that he signed with the New York Mets that was ultimately traded to the Texas Rangers. So you're looking in the neighborhood, if he clears every single record in free agency, you're looking in the neighborhood of 14 years, $572 million. Now, could it be less? Could it be 13 for $530? Could it be 12 for $500? Of course it could. At the end of the day, this is an unprecedented contract for really, since the days of Babe Ruth, an unprecedented player. You're talking about someone who has been a monster at the plate and on the mound, and someone whose future as a pitcher is still up in the air. We don't know what Ohtani can give his next team, be it the Giants or anyone else as a pitcher, after having his second Tommy John surgery. All we know is that he does want to continue competing as a pitcher moving forward, and the Giants would be very wise to put together a plan that shows him how he can do that. Maybe a creative plan. Say, maybe he turns 37, 38 years old and pitching out of the rotation every sixth day is no longer an option for him. Maybe the arm is so worn down and he needs to focus on hitting. He can still find a way to use him creatively. Hey, Shohei, every fourth or fifth day, you able to close a game for us? You able to give us 2 innings out of the pen? I think that creative solutions like that should be part of the pitch. Whether they ultimately come to fruition or not, the Giants have to be thinking about every avenue to possibly compel Ohtani to break the mold, break the tradition of big-time free agents not coming to San Francisco, and be the guy who signs up and says, yes, I want to play at Oracle Park. I want to join a tradition that includes Mays, McCovey, Bonds, Lincecum, Posey, and I want to write my own chapter. And so that should be very exciting. The Giants have some advantages in this free agency. They've got Buster Posey in the front office ownership group who's able to help pitch free agents now from his position as a former player, help convince people to come to San Francisco. They've got the previous track record of recruiting Ohtani, and all people inside the organization that I talked to felt like that pitch to Ohtani went well back when he was first coming to the United States from Japan. Of course, there was no DH in the National League, so it wasn't all that feasible. But we do know that there is interest on the Giants side. What we don't know is ultimately where Ohtani wants to play and what, aside from winning, that he will ultimately value. And so If the Giants have to pivot, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, obviously an incredible option on the free agent market. 25-year-old pitcher from Japan who's got the incredible durability track record in Japan that the Giants would love to pair atop their rotation with Logan Webb. If they have to pivot off of him, maybe it's Blake Snell. Maybe they go the position player route and go Cody Bellinger. If you're interested, I've also got a video out there on trade candidates because the Giants do have a track record of striking out in free agency. And this year, if that happens, they will absolutely have to part with young up-and-comers inside the organization to go out and get the star power that their fan base desperately craves. And quite honestly, I think people in front office and the ownership group desperately crave because they watched the product on the field last year. They watched the product in 2022. They know that it was boring. Our eyes did not lie to us. Our minds are not, lying to us either. We know what the Giants saw from an internal standpoint, and we know that they know it wasn't good enough. So all of that is to say, the noise surrounding Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and other big-ticket free agents in the San Francisco Giants, it continues to grow. And whether a deal gets done in the next few days, whether a deal gets done by the end of winter meetings with any of these players, what we do know is the Giants are in on these guys. Based on John Morosi, Dave Fleming, Mike Krukow, the indications are strong. And this has happened before. This is not necessarily reason to get your hopes up as a Giants fan. Giants fans have had their hearts broken consistently through free agency through the years, and maybe Carlos Correa is the best example that you don't celebrate until this gets to the finish line, until any of these deals potentially get to the finish line. But what we do know is that the Giants are in on the big ticket free agents once again, and this year they absolutely cannot miss, because if they do, you're talking about a fan base that's already riled up. You're talking about a fan base that's already canceling season tickets. You're talking about a fan base that will quickly turn to the San Francisco 49ers, maybe not the Golden State Warriors with the way they've played recently, but they will find alternatives to watching Giants baseball. The Giants need to give their fans a reason to watch this team. What better way to start than a mega deal, a record-setting deal for Shohei Ohtani? So continue to pay attention to the noise. I will continue to monitor it, and anytime there's any breaking news, any updates here on the Kerry Crowley Show, I'll try to get on here as soon as I can and provide the latest information.